They say he screamed my name before the fire took him. I wasn't there to hear it. I was already crawling from the wreckage, blind from smoke, my hands burned to the bone, still clutching a flight stick that was dead in my grip. When the explosion hit, I didn't die. He did. They called me a hero. But every time someone said, "You saved them," I heard, "You left him." That's the part no one gets about survival. It's not the living that haunts you. It's how you lived when someone else didn't. My name is Ari Shah Kapoor, and I'd been running from that fire for 10 years, until I walked into a room of pilots and heard one of them laugh, real pilots only. That was the moment I knew. The fire had found me. The air in Denver that morning was sharp enough to cut, dry and metallic with the taste of jet fuel. The Skyguard training base sat like a silver scar on the plateau. I walked into the briefing room at exactly 0745. 12 young men turned at once, their uniforms crisp, their confidence unshaken. The laughter faded. Then a blonde lieutenant leaned back, smirking. "Real pilots only, ma'am. Instructor's lounge is next door." I set my tablet down without a word. Years in uniform had taught me the power of silence. A door opened behind me. Colonel Kenji Tanaka entered, his posture formal. He looked across the room, paused, and saluted. "Good to have you back, Phoenix One." Every laugh died. The lieutenant, Scott, froze mid-smile. Someone whispered the name like a rumor. I returned the salute and took my seat, the weight of that title pressing hard on my chest. None of them knew it was born from a fire that took everything but me. After the briefing, I crossed paths with Lieutenant Colonel Jiro Hayashi, Skyguard's operations chief. We'd served together once. His handshake was firm, his eyes sharp. "Didn't expect to see you again." Neither did I. On the wall behind him hung a faded poster, "Tomorrow's safety starts today." I almost laughed. Safety, I thought, is often built on someone else's silence. That afternoon, I checked the system logs. Hayashi's signature was there, approving the same fire alert module that had failed years ago. That night, an anonymous email arrived. "Welcome back from the ashes, Phoenix. 10 years ago, the sky over Syria burned. My MH-60 shuddered as tracer rounds cut the air. The mission was simple: get civilians out. It never is." A missile hit the tail. Fire rolled through the cabin, the heat blooming so fast it felt alive. Kenji Sato's voice was calm against the chaos. "Get them home, Ari." I pulled the stick hard, my fingers bleeding, keeping the aircraft level long enough to drop 3 civilians on the pad. Then came a flash, a roar, and nothing. When I woke, the smell of smoke was already in my skin. Kenji was gone. They called me the miracle pilot, but all I could hear was the silence where his voice used to be. I left the service and carried his burned dog tag everywhere. It was heavier than any metal. Years later, when the FAA asked me to return as an advisor, I almost refused. Then I saw the program name, Skyguard, the same line of aircraft that had failed him. If I didn't come back, someone else would burn for the same mistake. That's when I found the signature in the records. Jiro Hayashi. He'd been the technical officer on Kenji's team back then. The one who approved the software update Kenji fought to stop. The man who'd let the system fail was now running it. The flames had a new name, but it was the same fire. In my first week, they called me the ghost pilot, the woman who climbed out of a fire when better men didn't. I let them talk. During a simulation, the temperature climbed past the threshold, but the warning light stayed dark. I killed the power and demanded the logs. Nobody moved. Later, a young engineer named Priya Sharma approached me in the hangar shadows, her voice trembling. She said the system had been automatically shut down a month ago. Maintenance costs, her supervisor claimed. I told her to send me the data. She whispered that speaking up could cost her job. I told her silence could cost lives. The next morning, Hayashi found me. "You're here to make the FAA look good, not to dig up ghosts. Don't make me bury you with them." I met his stare. "I've already been buried once. I know how to rise." That night, I found a folded note in my locker, the handwriting rushed. "He screamed your name before the fire took him." The hangar wind held, a sound too much like memory. I sat there, holding the scorched tag, listening to Kenji's voice in my head. "Keep them flying, Ari." A second fire was coming, and this time, I wasn't running. They called an emergency simulation. Scott Reeves was chosen to lead. When the engine fire alarm blared, he hesitated, picked the wrong command, and the simulated aircraft spiraled down. I shouted for him to kill the throttle. No one moved. I took control and shut the system down. The screen went black. I pulled off my headset. You just killed 3 people in simulation, Lieutenant. Don't make it 4 next time. Hayashi entered, cold and composed. You had no command authority, Kapoor. Authority doesn't matter when gravity does, I said. By afternoon, I was summoned to a review. The report claimed the simulation log had auto-deleted. Priya slipped into my office later, whispering that Hayashi had signed a data reset order 20 minutes after the test. This wasn't about one faulty drill. It was a system built to erase its own mistakes. That night, the hum of engines rolled across the base. I stared out at the runway lights, flickering like ghosts. Kenji's voice echoed in my mind. Don't flinch, Ari. The fire's not our enemy. Fear is. I took the dog tag from my pocket. The metal was cold. Fear isn't the problem, I whispered. Letting it make your choices is. 2 days later, Priya appeared with a USB drive labeled Archive 2015. I plugged it in. It was an internal safety report from 8 years ago about the same aircraft model. The final line hit like a punch, warning light failure, not corrected due to supply chain constraints. Signed, Jiro Hayashi. I walked straight to his office and dropped the report on his desk. You ignored this. Kenji died because of it. He leaned back, smirking. Kenji Sato died because he was careless. Don't turn your survival into a weapon. I don't need a weapon. I just need the truth not to be buried with him. His tone dropped. Take this public, and the FAA will shut us down. They'll start digging into who survived that crash. You'll burn again, Kapoor. I walked out before he could see my hands shake. Later, a knock rattled my door. Reeves stood there, pale, his arrogance gone. Ma'am, I checked the logs. The fire sequence was disabled manually. Someone's lying. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. The same kind that once lived in mine. The fire was back, and this time, I wasn't the only one who'd have to walk through it. I knew Hayashi was hiding something. Priya found me that night and pressed a drive into my hand. It was a copy of the simulation black box. The file opened to a single line, System Warning Override. User J. Hayashi. Manual bypass. He had disabled the alert himself. I went to his office at dawn. He didn't flinch. He'd planted a tracking tag. He stepped closer, his voice low. He accused me of enjoying my myth. Then he threatened to reopen the Syria investigation, to find a memo suggesting I abandoned the cockpit before Kenji's death. I felt cold. But later, studying older logs, I found an entry signed K. Sato, attempted to patch fire alert circuit manually. Denied by technical lead. Hayashi had blocked Kenji's fix. He had watched it fail. He tried to bury Kenji. I would not bury him again. Rain came that night. An alarm screamed, Hangar Bay. Flames were eating the simulator bay. Someone shouted, Reeves is still inside. No one moved. I grabbed an oxygen mask and ran. Smoke hit me like a wall. I found Reeves unconscious and dragged him free, my lungs screaming. This time, I did not lose another person. The next morning, the press called me, the Phoenix returned. The FAA opened an investigation. Hayashi came to the hospital, smug, until I told him I had witnesses. His smile vanished. Priya slipped a black USB into my hand, the black box recovered from the rubble. When I played it, Kenji's voice came through, not from the crash, but a saved message to Hayashi, Jiro, the system's failing. If we stay silent, we're complicit. The headquarters in Washington was all sterile light and cold walls. Hayashi sat across the table, confidence etched on his face. The chairman asked if I had new evidence. I plugged in the USB, my bandaged hands catching the light. The screen filled with text, System Warning Override. User J. Hayashi. This system killed Major Kenji Sato, I said slowly. Last week, it nearly killed Lieutenant Reeves. The error is the same. The silence is the same. Hayashi leapt up, shouting about manipulation. I told him negligence was enough. Then I played the recording. Kenji's voice, steady and clear, Jiro, the system's failing. If we stay silent, we're complicit. The room froze. Priya stood, her voice trembling but clear, confirming the log's authenticity. Then the doors opened. Reeves entered, his arm in a sling. Ma'am saved me from the fire he caused. Cameras turned to Hayashi. He had no words left. The chairman rose and saluted. Good to have you back, Phoenix One. In that stillness, I felt the weight lift. They had mocked me for being a ghost. But ghosts don't fade. They linger until the truth is seen. 3 months later, the FAA suspended Hayashi. Priya was promoted to Chief Systems Engineer. Reeves was reassigned to field training under wide, clean skies. They offered me a corner office in Washington. I declined. Titles never saved anyone. I asked for a post back in Denver, with a flight simulator, not a desk. I built the Phoenix Protocol, a new training program with one purpose: teaching pilots how to bring everyone home. At the top of every page, I put a single phrase: integrity before image. One evening, an email from Reeves appeared. "Ma'am, I stopped trying to look perfect. I just try to be good. Thank you." He signed it, Vector. The name made me smile. Kenji Vector Sato. Vector. One letter apart, one generation ahead. I walked past Hayashi's empty office. On his desk was a framed photo of him and Kenji, grinning beside their first helicopter. The inscription read, "To Jiro. Trust the system." I picked it up, brushed the dust away, and whispered, "He warned you, Jiro. We don't protect systems. We protect lives." Outside, snow began to fall, soft and soundless. Dawn stretched over Colorado, the air knife cold and clean. Inside the cockpit of the new Skyguard, everything was stripped bare. Just the hum of the engines and my own heartbeat. Skyguard 1, cleared for takeoff. Copy that. The nose lifted, the wheels left the runway, and the world dropped away. At 20,000 feet, the first light caught the canopy, pouring gold across the glass. My hand brushed the scorched dog tag bolted beside the flight panel. It wasn't a relic anymore. It was a compass. He was still flying with me, just in another sky. No guilt, no ghosts. Only calm. They once said real pilots only. Turns out, that's exactly what I am. Not because I fly higher, but because I didn't stop when the fire came. I banked left, the wings catching the light like metal dipped in flame. Below, the peaks of the Rockies shimmered, the snow reflecting a soft blaze. For a moment, the whole world was burning again. Only this time, it wasn't destruction. It was illumination. The same fire that once consumed me now guided me forward. Steady. Unwavering. The smoke had cleared, and what remained was clarity. I finally understood what Kenji meant when he said, "Get them home." It was never just about the mission. It was about learning to come home to yourself. As the jet leveled into the open blue, I smiled. For the first time in a decade, I wasn't flying to outrun the past. I was flying because I wanted to. Fire doesn't only burn, it reveals. And sometimes, to see who you really are, you have to walk through it one more time.